Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome into another edition of Chatterbox Reds. Nick Kirby, joined by my pal Mike Hart. We're going to talk about some additional free agents out there, some new free agents that have been added to the pool, some of the players that were non-tendered that we think could be good fits for the Reds. I've come up with a few players. Mike's come up with a few players, and we'll kind of talk through that. But Mike Hart, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. The baseball news keeps coming, and even though I'm barely making it through the Bengals season, happy to talk Reds with you.
Yeah, the news has been coming pretty hard, so we're gonna try to get out some videos like this, especially before the winter meetings next week, which I know is going to take up a lot of our content. Hopefully, with a lot of rumors and maybe even some actual action to talk about. Before we get to all that, want to of course tell you about what we got going on with Omaha Steaks. Man, it's the absolute best thing if you're looking for a gift for maybe like your dad or your brother. Get them an Omaha Steaks package. That's what I do. Holiday gifts made easy with Omaha Steaks. Really nice feature. You can place orders by 6 p.m. Eastern and they ship the same day. So if you're a procrastinator like me, that's a huge deal. And then right now they have their Sizzle All the Way sale. You get 50% off site wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $35 off with the promo code Chatterbox at checkout. Um, I like there's a package where you get extra burgers called Festive Gift plus free burgers package. That's what I like. Me and Mike both love the hot dogs. The apple tartlets are great. Everything I've gotten though is fantastic with Omaha Steaks. So again, save big on gourmet gifts and more. With Omaha Steaks, visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code Chatterbox at checkout. Terms do apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com, code Chatterbox. And we also have a t-shirt sale going on here at Chatterbox Sports. Black Friday sale. 2 t-shirts for $40 with the promo code double. We have 3 different Chatterbox Red shirts. There's also shirts for Chatterbox Bengals, Chatterbox Bearcats, and the Flying Line. That's our FC Cincinnati podcast. So great stuff there. Great holiday gifts, maybe. Great gifts just for yourself. And all the proceeds for that is going towards the creators of Chatterbox. Give us a little extra money for the holidays. So we'd appreciate that. Chatterboxsports.com/store for that. All right. Well, Mike, let's jump right into it here with some of these players that we talked about. We'll talk real briefly about Adolis Garcia because I know we've already talked a lot about Adolis Garcia. Seems like if you don't get Kyle Schwarber, seems like the next best bargain fit to me, just because you don't have to squint to see the guy hitting 40 home runs. Like, it's a legitimate possibility. He's got flaws to his game, like every player that's non-tendered, but the upside is not hard to see.
Yeah, I agree. I was doing some research on him, trying to see if there were any comparison to, say, like when Kyle Schwarber was non-tendered by the Cubs. I know that it's a name that is very high up in Reds fandom right now, but if you look it up, Kyle Schwarber had, pretty consistent years and then a really bad COVID year, and then the Cubs said, thanks, we're non-tendering you, which is wild. He then went on to sign a contract and have a 153 WRC plus season. So I guess bad decision by the Cubs, but I was kind of hoping there'd be a little bit more overlap here, because it's like we've seen some great seasons, but he is a little bit older. But I still think that there could be something like that Schwarber case where you're catching lightning in a bottle. You're basically removing him from a different situation. Obviously, we saw success in the World Series run that they had, but he's really struggled since then. There's been some things out there about how Globe Life Field that they play at was just a pretty big pitcher's park this year. You also play games in Seattle, and you also play. So there's other aspects of it of, hey, let's relocate back to the Midwest, where you're in the third, second, depending on where you look, best home run hitting park in, for 81 of your games. So I really think that there is an opportunity to be able to, even though we saw a drop off and there's some stats there that I think are scaring some people off. There's some real opportunity for a bounce back in a new situation, especially with a team that desperately needs some power.
Yeah, and my last point would be, like we talked about like a guy like Cody Bellinger, how he would be a great fit. We talked about Trent Grisham before the Yankees ended up he accepted the qualifying offer. Both of those guys in recent memory have had a season far worse than Adolis Garcia had last year. So like those guys are going to have risk too. Again, he wouldn't be my first choice. Obviously, my first, second, third, and fifth choice is Kyle Schwarber. But if that's not going to happen, I think you really should make a serious run at him because just the upside. There's a lot of other players we're going to talk about that I like. I don't see anyone that has that kind of upside.
Yeah. It's pretty hard to have, 39 home run power upside. Like that's not just walking around out. Those type of people don't get non-tendered usually.
Yeah. Another player we talked about a little bit briefly before, but JJ Bleday, obviously a very attractive player just because he was a 4th overall pick in 2019, was a top 100 prospect as recently as 2022. 2024, this is what's crazy is that the A's non-tendered a guy that was a 3.2 wins above replacement player in 2024. Very disappointing 2025. He say really disappointing, but he still had a 90 WRC plus 14 home runs. Like he wasn't atrocious, but for a guy that maybe you'd throw into the outfield mix, I like the upside there with him. Again, I don't think he would like fix everything, but I don't know why you wouldn't take a shot on a guy like this if you have a roster spot available.
Yeah, I agree. It obviously top prospect pedigree, but he's already been on 2 teams and it hasn't worked out. Those 2 teams were the Marlins and the A's. And another thing is like that ballpark was just a bandbox. Like everyone was sitting in there. We saw the season that Nick Kurtz had and things like that. And if you're not able to produce there, you wonder,
Yeah.
is there something going on? But then there's also like when you have a season like that when you're young and then you get older and you just completely fall off a cliff, you wonder how much injury might have been able to playing into that aspect. I mean, unfortunately, the team that would know the best is probably the team that let him go, right? The A's are intimately familiar with what happened, and whatever they saw, they were like, thanks, but no thanks. So, I'm frankly, when I saw that, I thought he was either not going to pass through waivers or would be quickly snatched up. And the fact that he's still available, makes me think that it's somebody that, could be attainable. He is a lefty, that I believe that, so we've already kind of got that side of platoons. Like if you're trying to figure out platoons, it's like there's already a Benson and there's already TJ Friedel that are going to be the lefty side of a platoon. Now, whether either one of those guys are still on the Reds next, by the time they would sign him, who knows? And they could be somebody that gets moved at the, winter meetings or something like that. So you never know. But it's definitely somebody that I would be very interested in. Where does he stack defensively? I didn't get a chance to quite look at that. It looks like he didn't do so well last year.
I think he was decent the year before, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Looks like -3 in 2024, but very good arm value.
Yeah.
So big throwing arm didn't, and then -8 this past year. So it doesn't look like much went well for him last year. And so he's 28. So you'd think that you're in the prime of your career. This would be somebody that it would not surprise me if July, whoever picked up JJ Bleday, is like, man, we got this guy off the scrap heap and look at all the ways he's contributing. It also would not surprise me if they pick him up and he's again on waivers by May. So he's kind of just like this. It's so really hard to tell with a guy that's clearly got a lot of talent, but is not been able to translate that into big league success.
The thing I wonder, last year was a little bit more split, but he still played the bulk of his games, still played twice as many games at center field as any other position. 2024, he played 157 games in center field. Now, the 2024 in center field was in that monstrosity of a ballpark in Oakland. And he was only -3 outs above average. I mean, you go put him in left field at Great American Ballpark, you kind of think that, hey, this guy might end up. And I know outs above average isn't supposed to. It's supposed to be context neutral. But I just do have a hard time believing that like the small ballparks like Great American Ballpark, it's not a little bit easier to sneak and kind of manipulate some of those numbers a little bit. So again, a guy worth taking a shot. Again, this would have to be, in my opinion, JJ Bleday is probably the kind of guy you sign in late January after some things have fallen through, which I know people hate hearing that, but that's just the reality of the situation. I think he'd be a really good fallback option is kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. Somebody that could be a spark, but then, you don't need to make that huge of a investment so that you're, if it doesn't pan out, it's, we ruin the offseason.
All right, the next guy on the list, this is a guy I really like, Mike, and I think he's probably going to be one of the more controversial ones that we might bring up. That's Nathaniel Lowe. He was a really good player for a pretty decent stretch, averaged 20 home runs and 2.8 wins above replacement from 2021 through 2024. Won both a Silver Slugger and a Gold Glove, plus a World Series in 2023. Had an absolute disaster of a season with the Washington Nationals and a disaster of a season for the Washington Nationals last year. But he got picked up by the Red Sox late in the year, had a 121 OPS plus, and it was just 34 games with the Red Sox. He was their primary first baseman, helped the Red Sox reach the first base. Good eyes, been a good defender up until last season. He won a Gold Glove, but it wasn't really a good defender last year. This is a guy, though, that I think has some legitimate power. That I don't know. You could put him at first base DH. I think I like Garcia more because I think there's more upside with Garcia, but I do think Lowe is a little bit more of a safer guy that has some power.
Yeah, I saw this on the list and I was really trying to get into it because his 2024 was pretty good. His outs above average are weird because he has 2 good years. He wins the Gold Glove, but then before that, it's -7. It's like bad. And then he has 2 very good years, and then he's bad again last year. So I don't, like I said, fielding statistics are weird. But I have a hard time looking at Nathaniel Lowe and being like that this is that much different than what we already have with Spencer Steer. 17 to 20 home runs, pretty good defense at first base right nowadays. We have somebody who is a Gold Glove finalist, maybe not as good at picking things. And Nathaniel Lowe is 6'4". So when you have Ellie thrown over there, so maybe that is an upgrade over 5'9" Spencer Steer, or 5'11", however tall he is. But it feels like this just is consistent. This is just redundancy of what Spencer Steer would be able to bring to the Reds without the ability to play in the outfield. So I mean, convince me I'm wrong. I have a hard time getting over. He just like this guy looks like left-handed Spencer Steer.
The Nats played him too much against lefties. That's my last plea. And the Nats obviously they were in a different spot.
Sure.
This guy has a 789 career OPS against right-handed pitching. Even last year, not a great year for him. This isn't just Boston. This is the whole season. He has 762 OPS, 252 average, 333 on base percentage, 429 slugging. Hit 16 home runs against right-handed pitching in less than 400 at bats. Platoon him with Spencer Steer.
Yeah, maybe that would work. And but then what do you do with Sal?
Steer
DH Sal?
Yeah, Sal can DH. You kind of would have some sort of you'd have to kind of figure out the rotation there, but one of them DHs, one of them plays first base, and then Spencer Steer can go out and play left field too if he needs to. It would give you some flexibility. That's my biggest plea. Is he got a lot of at bat. I mean, this guy had Mike. This guy had 171 plate appearances against lefties. 171. He had a 504 OPS. He was terrible. When he went to Boston, they put him in the role. You look, he did not play against lefties. It was a strict platoon, and he was fine there. So that's my thing is I think you just got too many at bats against lefties with the Nationals, and I do think this is something I don't think is talked about. The old talking heads, the AJ Przinsky's of the world, they'll tell you, well, you have to play, you have to get starts against lefties to stay in rhythm and all that. I think I don't agree with that. I saw a player like Will Benson, who I legitimately think it messed him up because he comes up in 2023. He's a straight platoon player. They don't play him against lefties at all. He only plays against righties. He hits well. He has all the confidence in the world. He's a confidence guy. Well, 2024, well, let's, we had some injuries. Let's try him against lefties. When the guy's never hit lefties throughout his entire minor league career, he loses confidence and it actually hurts him. So now let's say he was a lot older. You'd hope it wouldn't mess him up as much. But I do think, you play these guys against lefties, they are atrocious against them. I think you can, in some ways, get into their whole game.
Yeah, and there's we could get into a whole thing about some of these talking heads from a previous time of baseball. The pitchers have even crazier splits now as well. That they have pitches that are crafted in the lab to get the lefty out. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, they go to the lefty who maybe is a failed starter and say, okay, your job is to get lefties out, and we're changing your slider so that it is impossible to hit or see from the left-handed batter's box. So that wasn't happening when AJ Przinsky was playing. So there is just a narrowing of just like where you use your talent that I think it makes it even harder and makes when people are able to have reverse splits, I think, in my opinion, makes it even more impressive because nowadays there's just so much narrowing of that to get specifically. It's like, this is your role and you will be great at it. And so I think it's pretty impressive to see when somebody does that. But so, and it makes there being no shame in a platoon, the Dodgers use platoons. They just won the World Series. The Brewers use all kinds of platoons. They just had the best record in baseball. And so we're past feeling like, this is a lesser. I think somebody that is a killer strong side platoon, aka Miguel Andujar, who came in and demolished lefties and was great and was wonderful pinch hitting against left-handed pitching and offered protection against Elly De La Cruz so they didn't turn him around to bat right-handed. Like, there's all kinds of ways in which somebody like that can have a lot of value. So I think you've convinced me. Obviously, I would want Schwarber, but something that having somebody like that to be able to move around and then hit well against right-handed pitching, I think would be very valuable.
What about a Lowe Andujar platoon? Can we get them both and kind of just mix and match and see? And
there you go. You never know.
This is funny.
Andujar can't play in the field at all, though. Like his defense.
I'm hoping he could play first base, and it was just the whole quad thing last year.
Oh, okay.
That's my hope. But yeah, it was wild that that guy couldn't play in the field at all. Guy was like a third baseman, like a pretty premium position at one point. But this is funny because we just recorded before this. It's already been up for a while. As you're listening to this, we recorded something about Kyle Schwarber, and I had a point that I forgot to get out, but you just made me bring it out. One of the reasons I love Kyle Schwarber, not to keep going back to Kyle Schwarber, is he is hit lefties well, which I think is so rare. And that's one thing that I think is a potential good indicator of a guy aging well, because the guys that hit lefties at an elite level, lefty on lefty, are guys like Freddie Freeman, guys like David Ortiz, guys like Joey Votto. Like, you just don't see left-handed batters consistently put up 900 OPS against lefties. I think the players that are able to do that, they're often able to age better. So that's just another point about Kyle Schwarber that I had to get out there.
Well, there you go. I appreciate it. I'm sure that, yeah, the way he hits against lefties just added to the list of things that the Reds are just hoping to be able to see on opening day, riding down the what can they make him the marshal of the opening day parade? I know we're off. If he's got to play in the game, usually they have like the second and third day starters going, but like he might be able to ride down as the grand marshal and then go in and then hit 2 dingers at opening day. I'd love that.
If Kyle Schwarber comes to Cincinnati, we can name streets after him. We can name the city Schwarberville for a week. I don't. He can have whatever he wants. All right, let's move along. This guy, I don't know how to feel about him, Mike. I hope you have an idea. Christopher Morel. Morel feels like a type of player that an organization with a proven success like the Brewers. This is my note. This is my notes.
Yeah.
I didn't read it right. But I wrote down a note. This is my point. Morel feels like the type of player that an organization with a proven success like the Brewers could take a gamble on signing to a cheap MLB deal. I don't know if the Reds can get away with something like this. He's going to be 26 years old on opening day in 2026. Already has 74 career home runs, but he can't make contact to save his life. He's the type of player that if he figures it out, could be a game changer. That was my notes. I think Terry Francona would hate Christopher Morel first and foremost.
Yeah, you thought that he doesn't like Will Benson, man. This is just the, swing even harder and swing and miss even more version of Will Benson, right? So, yeah, I guess you're right. But this is, my thought is when the Rays picked him up from the Cubs, I think because he got non-tendered from the Cubs or maybe he was in the trade. I don't remember. But when the Rays got him, I think a lot of people were like, oh.
He was in the Paredes trade, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, the Isak Paredes trade. Yeah. So I think a lot of people were like, oh, the Rays have him. Uh-oh. They're going to unlock something. We're going to have Randy Arozarena all over again or something like that. And then after a year, they're like, sorry, we don't think that's fixable. Or, we don't think you're worth whatever that our value is. I think that's pretty telling. Yeah, sure. Maybe the evil Brewers magic is able to fix somebody like that. But my thought is like the Reds haven't shown much track record at all of being able to quote unquote fix people like that. So I don't know if that's necessarily something. And you're completely right. I don't see this being somebody that Terry Francona is trying to give 300 at bats to in the Reds uniform.
I do remember a player the Rays dumped going to Milwaukee and turning out very well. His name was Willie Adames. So
that's true.
I think Willie Adames has a little bit more skills.
A little bit more track record too, I think.
Yeah. It had something with his eyesight, I think, too, that messed him up in Tampa.
He said he just like literally couldn't see. If I'm remembering correctly, he's like the batter's eye at Tampa. I was like, I can't see that very well. So they traded for him and immediately was better because he wasn't playing 81 games in Tampa.
Yeah. Christopher Morel. But I'm telling you, I fully expect him to be a 2026 All-Star for the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah. Well, you'll have called it. I sure hope that's not the case. And I don't think that this is somebody that the Reds should or will take a flyer on.
All right, we have a couple more batters we'll talk about. They're going to be guys on minor league deals. Let's talk about some pitchers that maybe we could look at on major league deals. We're going to start with Joey Lucchesi. Is that how you say his name? I know you're really interested in him.
That's right. Yeah. I basically when you told me about this, I went to the list of all the people that were non-tendered, and I immediately just grabbed every left-hander and put them in a spreadsheet. I was just like, well, what does this team need? They need a left-hander in the bullpen. Right now it's Sam Moll and Brent. Well, no, Brent Suter's he's gone. It's Sam Moll, and that's it. Maybe a reliever that like a Brandon Williamson fills in there, but they need left-handed relievers. And that brought me to Joey Lucchesi, Lucchesi is a former starter who was moved to the bullpen this year for San Francisco, I believe. And his stuff ticked up. It was good. And what I liked about it, it was something where, let's see, I'm looking at his Savant page, his hard hit rate was in the red. So that means it was low, right? So he doesn't give up hard contact or barrel contact. He only walked had like 7% walk rate, gets a lot of ground balls. It's like, he had a 3.76 ERA and an expected ERA of 3.53. So it's just like, he seemed like, what you got what you saw is what you got out of him. He was somebody that, forced ground balls and threw strikes and, was left-handed and obviously did pretty good at getting left-handers out. So I was looking at the projections. It was something like, I think he was owed maybe 800,000 or something like that. And the projection was maybe a little bit over $1 million. Because I think he had settled in one of his arbitration years for like a 2-year deal, and then they chose not to do it or something. I didn't dive into what that contract was with the Giants before they cut him loose. I saw all this and I was like, is he hurt? Like, am I missing something? Like, he had Tommy John and he's not pitching in 2026? Like, what? It feels like somebody that on a pretty cheap deal you could come in and have some trust with, and like we just talked about with Christopher Morel as well, like I feel like there is some track record of Derek Johnson and company working with and enhancing, especially relievers, aka Connor Phillips, right? So I think there is an opportunity to be able to bring in, and I would hope that, they're probably going to wait until they can tell whether or not they're going to get Schwarber or not, or, where that is going to be, how they bring in a stable of lefties. But I just want them to sign 3 or 4 lefties to minor league or small major league deals, throw them in spring training and see which one hits. You know what I mean? Because I think that they're going to need some sort of version of that, because just relying on Sam Moll, I don't think is going to cut it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm more of the camp of pick up a couple, $1-2 million relievers as opposed to going out and getting the $6 million Taylor Rogers, because that doesn't work out either. And it's just not the kind of luxury a small market team has to spend money on relievers that have a longer track record. So yeah, I'm sold 100%. I'm looking at his numbers. I don't get it either. Another guy, Mike, I'm looking at his numbers. I don't understand why he was non-tendered. His arbitration projection was $3 million. Mark Leiter Jr. The ERA hasn't been good for 2 years in a row. But I mean, like his FIP was 3.55, his xFIP was 3.8, his xERA was 3.72. He has one of the better average exit velocities against, doesn't give up a lot of hard hit balls, doesn't give up the ball barreled. Yeah, I'm like, is there something I'm missing? I mean, this guy's $3 million. So this seems like a guy the Reds could get for like $2 million or less, right? Like, because if he was worth $3 million, he would have got traded. Right?
Yeah. I would agree with that. Another thing that I see that's it's interesting is, I'm looking at his Savant page. Yeah, looks pretty good. Hard hit rate, barrel rate. It's got listed here 5 pitches or 6 pitches, right? Sinker, splitter, curveball, cutter, slider, 4-seam. I think one of the MOs that we've seen is like Derek Johnson says, "Hey, don't throw 3 of those pitches. You're going to be sinker, splitter, and you are going to come out and do, be able to, I'm not saying be Fernando Cruz, but just like go out and be able to have something like that to even see your stuff tick up a little bit more." So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think part of it was, I think the Yankees released like 4 or 5 relievers. I think they just were like, hey, we're in a roster crunch. These are the ones that we're going to get rid of. And we think we might be able to upgrade, with paying, paying somebody like not Devin Williams. He obviously just signed, but somebody like a Luke Weaver, bringing him back, or, somebody out there that would be able to fill some of these spots a little bit better. So I think it was less of like, we don't want to pay this amount of money. It was just more of a roster crunch. And I love it when small market teams are able to, take advantage of things like that. The roster crunches on better teams. I mean, that's why you have the limited roster space is because you want some of the players that maybe weren't going to contribute on these better teams be able to make it down to the smaller market teams where they can contribute. So I'm with you. It would be, it'd be right in that bin that you were talking about. $1 to $2 million reliever. It has pedigree. He is 34, but for a reliever, it's not the biggest of an issue, I don't think. And you could see him coming in and pitching some pretty big innings for the Reds.
Yeah, for a reliever, it's a 1-year deal. I don't know if I really care that much about the age, to be honest.
Yeah,
like it's a 1-year deal. Honestly, sometimes the older guys at least have a little bit more proven, can at least bounce back better from a season that maybe the ERA wasn't great. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Mark Leiter Jr. I think he'd be a great fit, kind of a Scott Barlow type replacement, maybe if Barlow ends up making a little bit more money, maybe a way to replace him for cheaper. And it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and just get the nephew of Al Leiter, and maybe there's some good karma for putting
Yeah,
him on the roster at 34 years old.
the 1999 year.
Yeah. This is next guy is a guy I think has probably a little bit more upside than either of the two, in my opinion, that we've discussed, but probably also more of the volatility. That's Colin Holderman. Holderman coming off a truly just dismal year. No way around that, but doesn't mean he's not an intriguing arm. Although 2025 was a disaster, the 30-year-old managed a 3.52 ERA in 107 innings between 2023 and 2024. Missing plenty of bats along the way, almost 10 strikeouts per nine. Features a power sinker. This has intrigued me. Averaged 97.4 miles per hour last season. Helps him keep balls on the ground and occasionally creeps into triple digits on the radar gun. This is a guy I would love to see Derek Johnson get his hands on.
Yeah, my favorite thing about Colin Holderman was and he obviously didn't have a good season last year, but the year before he was like leading the league in holds for a long time. So Colin Holderman leading the league in holds for the Pirates was that was I like that pun there that was going on. But yeah, it's one of those things where the track record for the past 2 years before that, 3.8 ERA, 3.1 ERA with 58 strikeouts, 56 strikeouts, like those were good years. Like he was their setup guy to their closer for both of those years for the Pirates. Now, obviously, that's not a team that's closing out a bunch of leads, but there's, you got to wonder. It's like, yeah, if you can like tap back into what he was able to do in 2024 with, you're right, with whatever Derek Johnson has to offer or the team there. I think that, yeah, that could be something too. And I don't know what his projection is, but I would imagine when you're coming off of a season like that, you can't be garnering that much on the free agent market as well. So, yeah, these are all people that I think I would like to, because, just like take a chance with him, somebody that's done it before and, has good velocity. And if he can rein it in, can be somebody that's, once again, helping fill out the middle parts, the middle innings is what we're going to need, right? If we can say Santillan's going to be our closer, which I don't know if I guess I'd be okay with at the beginning of the year. It's like where we're going to need to fill in is we're going to need to fill in the Barlow innings. We're going to need to fill in the Santillan innings, that the setup role innings. And so that's something that I think this guy would be able to do.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. He might only get a minor league deal. It's possible. I had him in the major league category, but he's probably like right on that cusp where it could really probably go either way with him. So I would obviously love him even more on a minor league deal. As I said before, I don't think there's a such thing as a bad minor league deal. Like especially for pitchers, like get as many of them into camp as you want. See if someone looks good, and there you go. You picked yourself something up. My Brent Suter replacement, Mike, John King. He's a lefty, so that's good. Wasn't great in 2025. 4.66 ERA, even 5 FIP. Pretty good from 23 to 24 though. Does not strike anyone out. Literally does not strike anyone out. One of the worst strikeout rates in baseball, but he doesn't walk guys. And up until last year, he was really at incredible numbers of keeping the ball in the ballpark. Again, this would be back end of the bullpen depth piece, but the Reds kind of need some of these older. They kind of almost need another Brent Suter type pitcher. I think Brent Suter probably finds his way back onto the roster though.
Yeah. Average fastball velo of 93. So that's blazing compared to Brent Suter. But yeah, 98th percentile ground ball rate last year, even with the down year, 98th percentile ground ball rate the year before. So this dude, he gets a lot of ground balls, and frankly, infield defense, like especially with Brian Hayes, and then if we're expecting Matt McClain to play mostly at second base, and then whether it's Spencer Steer or whoever playing at first base, and then I think we all think that Ellie can make a leap when it comes defensively as well. Infield defense is something that I think that we we could be sitting here in May and be like, this is a cool strength for the Reds that, let's take advantage of somebody that, literally 60% of the time is giving up contact on the ground. So, I think that's somebody. You're right. We need a long man. We need somebody who's going to be able to just fill in those innings, maybe even be a lefty opener to try to switch things up for, Chase Burns coming in, flame throwing right-hander coming in afterwards, so it's like, I agree. I would like something like this to be able to eat some of those really, dog days. The pitcher blew up and we need to save the bullpen innings, those type of things.
Yeah. Also, he's more of he's actual traditional lefty where he actually gets lefties out better, unlike Brent Suter, who had more average, I think almost reverse splits at times throughout his career. Last year, 76 OPS plus against left-handed batters. Left-handed batters only had a 265 on base percentage against him. So he's a guy that, you're not looking for him to be like your dominant lefty. You throw him out there and you're expected to strike out by any means. But a guy at the back in your bullpen, you might be able to put him in some strategic spots as well. And this is my last point here. So he's kind of a guy that you bring in the third inning if you need to, but he might be a little bit different in Brent Suter. Whereas if you don't need him on that night in the third inning, there might actually be a spot where there's 2 outs in the 7th inning. It's a lefty on lefty matchup, like he's facing the opponent's Will Benson. And that's a good matchup for him based on his track record. So there might be a little bit more of actual usage for him outside of just that innings eater than there was with Suter.
Yeah. And he's 31, Suter's 36, 37, so if you're replacing him, it's just like, here's the newer, younger Brent Suter. Here you go. Wonder if he has a Tito impression, and that's the next thing we need to find out about John King.
Yeah. And you can't have both of those guys. You can't have a Suter and a King. So
I agree with that.
You got to pick one. You got to pick one. One's fine though. This is a really interesting one. I bring him up. I just don't know this anyway. The Reds spend money on a guy that's not going to pitch most of the season. But my God, he's talented, Mike. That's Evan Phillips. He had Tommy John surgery. Won't be back till midseason. His stock had already been somewhat of a decline. He spent 2024 as a league average pitcher and then was limited to low leverage work in the playoffs. Before that was incredible. He had a 1.59 ERA and a 0.79 whip from 2022 to 2023. Strikeout rate was 30%. Walk rate just 7%. He was one of the guys that popularized the sweeper, one of the first guys that really made that like a dominant pitch. I just don't see the Reds being the team that stashes him on a roster, but I think whoever stashes him on a roster has a chance of getting a real dominant reliever because he looks like a guy that could come back from Tommy John surgery even better.
Yeah, I mean, he got saves for the Dodgers, 24 saves in 2023, 18 saves in 2024. Only got one last year, but had the injury and things like that. So, it's somebody that's pitched in high leverage for a really good team, has great stuff, but is injured, So, the thing is, it's going to be the Dodgers are the ones that are going to sign this dude to a 2-year less thing, sit him, and then bring him back to come and start throwing fireballs and crazy sweepers for their playoff run next year. So, I agree. I don't think we're talking about barely having enough to sign one hitter. And I don't think they spend any of that money on a guy that's not going to contribute for at least what they would project to be for the whole year.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Like him, I don't think there's any way it happens. Will Benson hit his first career home run against Evan Phillips. Reds came back from down 6-2.
That was the walk-off, right?
The walk-off home run with the celebration heard around the world. All right, let's get into some guys that are strictly MILB deals. Tim Elko, this was a guy you liked, Mike.
Yeah, I like Tim Elko because this dude, if there's a place, Prospect Savant, where you can look up his, it's similar to Baseball Savant. The same different sliders for it. The dude hits the ball really hard and hits the ball, he just mashed in AAA, came up with the White Sox and wasn't very good, to be honest. Wasn't very good. I think he basically hit so well in the minors that they were like, well, let's give this guy a try. It was the White Sox. They were out of it. And unfortunately wasn't very good. But a 6'3" first baseman, who's only 26. What he reminded me was Edwin Rios, the guy that the Reds had in first base down in AAA all year. In fact, I looked up Edwin Rios, and the sliders look pretty similar, except for Elko's, I think, was better. So, and Elko is 26 and Rios is 31. So, do I think this guy is necessarily the the guy that comes and saves the season? No, but a 26-year-old that hits the ball really, really hard and hits the ball out of the ballpark, and you can get him on a minor league deal, and maybe he becomes something, is, in my opinion, worth it. Now, he strikes out a lot, and obviously that was his issue in the majors. But it's like this feels like the type of person that, if you can get on a minor league deal, is the type of person that you would want to take a risk on, because the raw power are there. And if you can figure out the eye at the plate, then that's somebody that can be really productive.
Yeah, never against guys with raw power. Maybe that you could even stash at AAA. You can never have too many of those guys. Guys interested to me, definitely would have to be on a minor league deal. Eli Morgan was incredible in 2024 with the Guardians. Had a 1.93 ERA in 42 innings. Doesn't have dominant stuff by any means, but a guy that could maybe be a guy that you could maybe shuffle between the majors and AAA if you're able to get him on the right deal. Just a guy that I think could be another innings eater type guy.
Yeah, and I think he was with the Cubs last year, and it wasn't very good, so that's why he is available. And 2024, I guess, does that mean, did he ever play with Tito? We've seen some of these Tito connections. Like, was he up in 2023? Because 2023 was, I think, Tito's
Yeah,
last
he was.
year.
He was. He
Okay.
pitched 67 innings in 2020. He's a Tito guy.
Yeah.
He
So
pitched a lot. 2021 through 23. He pitched like over 200 innings with the Guardians.
did he start? Did he do some starting?
Yeah, he actually came up as a starter in 21, made 18 starts, and then after that, he was basically strictly a reliever.
Yeah. So I don't know. We just saw that with Scott Barlow, somebody that a Tito guy that they bring in on on a cheap deal and at least give him a shot. So I don't know. That probably has more legs than almost any of the other ones that we've talked about so far today, just because of that connection. So good find there.
Yeah, well, I didn't even think of it as that way, but you're on it. Alexander Canario, I bring him up because I remember when we were doing previews last offseason, I had brought on a guy for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he said, man, I really like this guy's tools. This was a guy that was kind of on like the DFA wire, I believe, right before opening day, and the Pirates ended up settling on him. He had a really bad year, but he's a very, very toolsy Dominican player that definitely has some legitimate upside. But again, he just hasn't really shown it yet at all at the big leagues.
Yeah. Played all three positions, I guess, so that's always helpful. But you're right, just a dismal offensive season. So, flexibility, sure, but we need better than 218, and I think an overall WRC plus of 25% worse than average. Like, that's not good. So, yeah, but a minor league deal with somebody with tools, I could see that, and somebody that could give you flexibility as well. In all three of those spots, sure, why not? Like, I feel like there's nobody on this list that I'm like, yeah, minor league deal, sure. Let's pack the system and see if we get lucky.
37 home runs in the minor leagues in a one season back in 2022. That was kind of the one thing that kind of stuck out to me. Michael, how do you say it? Is he Toglia?
Oh shoot. It might not be Toglia. I know that, but the first baseman, the really tall first baseman, used to play for the Rockies. I guess we can look it up. But yeah, Toglia. He had a terrible season for the Rockies, like an all-time terrible season. But in 2024 was pretty good. And to be honest, I'm all for taking lottery tickets so people leaving Coors. And I think people think that maybe is counterintuitive. It's like, wait a minute, you're going to take a guy that was just boosted by his home park by a ton right? But ultimately, I think there's been a decent amount of writing and research on this too. For as much as Coors Field, gives when you go there, it takes away when you're on the
Yes.
road
Yes.
because breaking balls break more, and it's just like you're just used to some balls moving in certain ways, and then you go and play the other half of your games where the balls do something completely different. It's been pretty well documented that it actually potentially hurts you more than helps. And that's why you can see somebody like a Ryan McMahon or Nolan Arenado, even DJ LeMahieu. These are guys that came away from Coors and like, I don't know, Ryan or Matt Holliday. People, I don't know, they're leaving Coors, and then they go on having great seasons for the teams because it's just like now I just don't have to worry about this at all. I can know that the majority of my pitches that I'm going to see are going to break normally. Yeah, I'm all for taking a lottery ticket on an ex Rocky because you never know. And another tall first baseman, as you can tell, the two people that I've selected for these minor league deals. Let's get tall first basemen. Maybe you strike gold there. One thing is, I think he was pretty bad defensively, and I can't tell how much of that is like fielding wise or not able to scoop, which I know is something that has been an issue with with Ellie's throws. There's a whole article about that on Fangraphs. So I'm not saying it's a perfect fit, but I'm all for somebody who you never know what could turn around and getting him out of Coors Field.
All right. My last one, MJ Melendez. This is a player I would want nothing to do with a major league deal. Been a negative wins above replacement for 3 straight years. Been pretty bad in Kansas City. This is just strictly a guy I'm bringing in on a minor league deal to say, hey, is there any upside there? There's a second round pick, and he's got some legitimate power, and he played a big ballpark, hit 18 homers in 2022, 16 in 2023. Hit 20 home runs in AAA last year with the Royals. Actually spent most of the year in AAA with the Royals last year. But something that really caught my eye, Mike, when I was looking at this, I looked at the expected home runs by park, 2023, 32 in Cincinnati. So again, this would be a guy I would bring in just as outfield depth, can play all 3 positions, isn't a great defender at all. Would be just a depth piece that you put him in spring training. You see if maybe there's anything you can unlock. And most likely scenarios, you hope that you're able to send him down to AAA, and he's a AAA depth. That's what intrigued me about MJ Melendez. I would love to have him as a AAA outfield depth, and who knows, maybe there is some power that you're able to tap in there.
Yeah, this is a guy that was a former top prospect for, maybe not top, but high prospect for the Royals that frankly they've been holding on to and hoping would turn the corner for like the past 3 years. It makes sense that, he was finally released. Maybe when that's the case and you've kind of been anointed as the next, as the future, going to a new place is helpful. So yeah, I agree. I think he used to also be a catcher too. So I wouldn't expect them to try to explore that, but yeah, there's being able to have some depth with potential power unlocked. I think that's been the main theme that you've seen with both of our picks. It's just like somebody that might be able to tap into some power because boy, there wasn't that on the major league team.
All right. That's all I got. Unless there's any that you had sneak through the last minute here. I think we covered enough. There's more we could cover. We could do this for hours. These are some of the ones that stood out to us. Let us know. Let us know in the comments on YouTube. Even if you're listening on podcast form, go find us on YouTube or tweet at me. Let me know if there's any non-tender players that you think we missed that we should look at more. Maybe we'll do another show and talk about some more because
Yeah,
there's plenty of offseason to fill.
for sure. To be honest, I look through the comments almost on every one of the shows that I do, and I'm always just shocked that I think there's just a lot of really smart commenters that come through there. I think that there's a lot of good things that people bring up that I don't even think about. So, yeah, tell us where we're wrong. Tell us about somebody that we missed. I'm sure one of you is screaming at the screen, being like, "How could you not think of this person?" So yeah, let us know because it's always great to hear from. We got the best crew Chatterbox. We got the best fans, the sickos that are like, yeah, let's talk about the non-tender baseball players in the middle of, or the beginning of December. Let's do this, so we appreciate all you guys that watch and comment on the videos.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had fun doing this, Mike. Appreciate you as always. Mark Leiter Jr. That's the one I think I'm really intrigued about. Mark Leiter Jr. I really like Nathaniel Lowe as well. If Schwarber doesn't happen, who's really your, like, you feel like, man, I really want that guy?
It's Joey Lucchesi. I was bring the Italian here. Bring him here. I want the lefty that that we're going to be able to use in all kinds of different situations. I want that's the guy.
Who's your hitter?
Who is it? Am I allowed to say Adolis Garcia?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of
that's kind of cheating. Yeah, it's a pretty easy one, but like that seems like that could fill a lot of, not all of what we would miss out if we missed out on Schwarber, but I think could be a nice consolation prize if we needed it.
I think Garcia and Lowe, like, together could be almost a good. I don't think you can't get Schwarber and Lowe, like, because you run out of your DH first base spots. But Garcia, who could play the outfield, and Lowe, I think the two of those together could be. I mean, again, I'm not trying to sell you on, oh wow, get pumped for opening day. We got Adolis Garcia and Nathaniel Lowe. Our offense is fixed, but they at least have the upside that you don't have to squint too hard to say they could really fill some roles and help this offense, along with, no matter what's needed, Mike. No matter if you get Kyle Schwarber, no matter if you go dumpster diving, you get Adolis Garcia, Nathaniel Lowe, or even if you have to go lower than that, the Reds have to have Elly De La Cruz be a superstar. They have to have guys like Noelvi Marte, Matt McLain take steps forward. They're going to need these guys to play better than they played in 2025. That's the main point throughout whatever you want to talk about this offseason.
Yeah, completely agree. These are only, this isn't going to fix everything. It's just going to supplement what we're going to need from our core, which is a leap forward.
Yeah, you need those guys to be, right now, an 85 win team. You need them to be able to on their own, and you're hoping that you're adding players to get you up to 87, 88, 89. So, well, Mike, appreciate you. All kinds of other content here on Chatterbox Sports. Chatterbox Bengals on Sunday, doing a live show at Smoke Justice, starting at 12:30. I know we've both been to Smoke Justice. Awesome place. They got great food, some great bourbon. Just a really fun atmosphere. That would be a fun place to go watch a Bengals game. So the Chatterbox Bengals crew will be there 12:30 p.m. on Sunday for the Bills game, and then all kinds of other content here on Chatterbox Sports. Of course, the Crosstown Shootout is on Friday night, one of my favorite events of the year. Chatterbox Bearcats, they're doing a live show Friday night at I'm forgetting the name.
The pizza place.
It's a pizza place. It starts with an M. It's not in my head, but it's on social medias. Be sure to check that out. And then, of course, all kinds of other content here on Chatterbox Sports. So be sure to check all that out. If you're listening in podcast form, leave us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate that. Like the stream, all that kind of stuff. All right. Well, Mike, we will chat again soon. I'm sure, my friend. Go Reds.